And then I remember when it got announced, and I just remember my phone just going mad. And I just didn't know what was going on. It just literally throughout that whole day and the next 2 days, my phone did not stop. And it was ridiculous. Basically, the story of this podcast is wherever Roberto goes, I end up there somehow. So, so I don't think it's his choice, but somehow we always end up there.
Yes, folks, welcome back. A brilliant guest on this week. Somebody that I've actually worked with in football at Fort William for a spell of time and I've known for a few years now. Shadab Iftikhar. Shadab, how are you?
Very good, thanks yourself.
Yeah, good. Yeah, good. I'm delighted to have you on. It's as I said, it's been a while since we spoke. A long time since the days at Fort William.
Yes, I can't believe you mentioned that it's been a couple of years. It feels like yesterday, but no, when I look back, it's what 2, 3 seasons ago now. So time flies there. But no, you still look 21 as well, so it's all good, all good.
Thanks, mate. You don't look too bad yourself. No, thank you. To be honest with you, I really wanted to get you on to get your story within football. You obviously have had some quite high-profile roles within the scouting world and worked with Roberto Martinez for a while. So it kind of seemed like a good opportunity to get you on and get your story. But I'd like to go back to the start and your childhood footballing memories and how you got into football in the first place.
Ooh, going back to my childhood, you know what? I don't remember too much of school or anything like that. All I remember is playing on the streets, heads and volleys, cuppies, and this was about when I was maybe primary school playing in my back garden. And then I remember around Championship Manager was out. I know that's been a big media story, Championship Manager and Football Manager, but they sort of mirrored up. So Championship Manager when it was dark and when I had to go inside, and then times that it was fine outside, playing heads and volleys, cuppies, Wembley, all the games that I remember playing. I remember literally being on the street from early morning till late at night playing football. That was absolutely everything. And then as I've got older, Football Manager came in about when I was in that college. When you finish high school and you're doing your GCSEs, and then you have that period where you're waiting for college to start, you're not really sure what you're doing in life. That period is where Football Manager filled the void and where Five-a-side came in. And I just loved playing street football. I never ever joined a grassroots club. I always preferred to stay and play street football. That was the best thing. I would go back to in a heartbeat as well.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. And what team was it you supported when you were growing up?
So there's two teams. There was the Brazil team. I absolutely was fascinated with the Brazil national team. The Ronaldinho, Rivaldo, Ronaldo, Roberto Carlos, Romario, Cafu. 1998, they lost in the final. Obviously, Zinedine Zidane. A double header, I think it was, and the Petit scored. And then in 2002, I remember them winning the World Cup. I think Brazil, I've always had, from a young age, I've always been the fastest. My first football top was actually a Brazil top. It was brilliant. I loved Brazil, loved everything about them. Even to this day, I've got a lot of respect for the country and the national team. But as a kid, my brother was a Liverpool fan. I was a Liverpool fan. I was fascinated with Rafa Benitez, and that was the link where I wanted to become a football manager. Rafa Benitez got involved in Liverpool when I think it was 2004, 2005. I was 15 at the time, year 10 at high school, and the Champions League in the first year, FA Cup. It was just that period. So Liverpool was a team that I followed.
Yeah, it was a good time to support Liverpool because, as you alluded to, they won the Champions League in 2005, didn't they? And in that famous night in what was the city again?
Istanbul.
Istanbul, that's it. Yeah, and it's 3-0 down and then brought it back to 3-3 and then the penalties with Dudek and brilliant.
Xabi Alonso. I never forget Xabi Alonso in the game when he missed the penalty. He took it with his right foot and he actually finished the rebound with his left. And to do that is unbelievable. But just the whole thing, you never walk alone. The atmosphere, and with all due respect, to get to a Champions League final in your first year, and with all due respect, with that squad, was amazing. And credit to everyone involved. What great memories, honestly. The FA Cup, even that period. I think in the fourth year when they beat Man United 4-1 at Old Trafford and they beat Real Madrid and then Aston Villa instead of a week, it was breathtaking. So that was the making, shall we say. It was something that inside of me that I thought this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. So yeah, timing's everything, eh? Timing's everything.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's brilliant. And you sort of said there that you never really played for a grassroots football club. So you never played at any youth academies or anything like this, no?
No, nothing. It's funny because when I look back now and I look at the group of friends I had, none of us actually played for a grassroots club. And that's probably one of the reasons why I never did as well. We always felt that why go training when we for an hour and a half or an hour when we could spend the next 6 or 7 just playing. And that was just the way we were. We had a group of good friends, 6 or 7, that did everything together. When Wimbledon came on, we tried a hand at tennis, but back to football. When cricket was on, we used to play a little bit of cricket, but always back to football. And we even went to the driving range once. It wasn't very good. We came back to football, and it was just literally it's all we did. I remember the some of the parents, some of the people on the streets used to go mad at us, but we weren't bad kids, so we always got away with it. We hit the few windows. We used to get chased off, come back an hour later, and it was just the best time ever. And honestly, there's a park right opposite, and we used to go there sometimes and play. It was just honestly, it was a great time. But yeah, never played for grassroots really. I just always enjoyed playing street football.
Mm. And would you say that you weren't just necessarily a football fan, you were just a sports fan by what you've described there, that you played any sport that was kind of going at the time?
Yeah, I think it's one of those where because you're always active and whatever sport was on, but I always say that football and boxing were the main two. Boxing was I followed boxing quite closely as well at that time, so those two were definitely the main two. Obviously, when maybe the Cricket World Cup or Wimbledon were on, you always saw bits of it, so you tried it. But football was definitely the main one. I don't ever remember a day going to play cricket, for example. It was always we'll try cricket, then we'll always end up back playing football, and for the rest of the week it was football. So we did try lots of different sports as you do growing up, but football was the sport.
Yeah. I mean, I'll always be kind of grateful to you, Shadab, because you obviously gave me the opportunity to come up to Fort William and do a bit of scouting for you. Although it was a difficult time, I really appreciate the time that you gave me. It's probably a good opportunity to touch on Roberto Martinez because he obviously gave you a chance when you were a young coach slash scout. And has this sort of been your ethos going out throughout your whole career to give people a chance, the same chances that Roberto gave you?
Yeah, I think when you've been on the other side of things and you understand how difficult it is to maybe get an opportunity or how difficult it is to break into, you understand the other people's situations. And one thing I would say, your scout reports were a lot better than my scout reports at Wigan and Everton. I'll be very honest with you. So you brought more value to me than I did Roberto. And you helped me a lot, because it was a very difficult time for me and my staff at the time settling in, and your reports really helped us a lot. And so, we're very grateful. I know you say you're grateful to me, but we're also very grateful to yourself because you helped us a lot in those early periods. So thank you very much. But it was important. I think it was really important that you open the doors for other people. This is the way that somebody opened the doors for you. And you understand that because of the tough journey that I've had to get to where I've got to, and there's another long road ahead of me, you appreciate that people are giving you time, so it's right that you give other people time. And I just think it's the right thing to do. I think whatever you do comes back to you as well. You've got to treat people well, you got to treat people with respect, and you got to give people opportunities because that's what's important. How did I get to where I got to if nobody opened the doors for me? And it's very important when you're in a position that you try and help other people out.
So you obviously got involved with Wigan and Everton scouting with Roberto. How did that come about? How did you first of all meet Roberto, and then how did you get the role as a sort of scout?
It was I had seen his Wigan play a couple of times, and I was doing a degree at the sports coaching at the time as well, and I knew that I always needed the next step. So I thought to myself, how do I go about being attached to professional football? How do I go about being attached to a high level football? And I believed in my work, and I saw Roberto Wigan play, and I was like, this is a young manager that I felt was a top manager. So I stood outside the training ground and literally I rocked up. It was chucking down the rain. It was Friday morning, I remember. And so I didn't know this, but somebody who was on the sort of in the office knew me from my level two. So he came out and he said, "Have you got an appointment with anybody? You look who you waiting for." I said, "I've got no appointment, but I'm here to see Roberto." And I remember his face like, it's not, if you no appointment, how are you going to do it? So he goes, "Just come into the office to stay dry." And I just said, I said, I want to meet Roberto. I said, I'm not basically moving until I do. So we went to Roberto, and Roberto said, "Look, if you can come back after training, I've got no problem meeting him." So I handed Colin, his name was at the time, I'm sure he still is Colin, my dossier, and I think it was my CV, and I gave it to him. Came back at 1 o'clock, and Roberto met me, and he'd read my CV, he'd read my dossier, which was blueprint on how to beat Barcelona. It was Pep Guardiola's Barcelona, and he asked me what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go, and the next thing he said, start doing the scout reports, and that was that. And I did it for free for 2 years at Wigan, 2 years at Everton. But like I said, you don't pay for an education. That was a brilliant education. I was 21, 22 at the time, doing a degree, doing a master's in sports coaching. I was a B license then as well, so I was doing my A license, and I saw it as a great opportunity. And Roberto knew exactly what he was doing with me. He knew exactly what I wanted to do and how to shape me, and I'll be forever grateful to him. And he's just a top bloke, top manager, and everyone who comes off Roberto goes on to be very successful.
Yeah, definitely. And you can see he's a manager that's gone right to the top, right to the very top. Um, why was it scouting of all roles that you wanted to get involved in?
It's interesting because I've always been obsessed with improving football knowledge. I always put that at the most important thing. If you improve, from this is the way I look at things, if you improve knowledge, if you improve your understanding of the game, that will hold you in good stead. And even to this day, I was thinking about this morning in areas where I need to get better. And I give you an example, making adjustments in a game. And I thought the better my knowledge becomes, the cleaner adjustments becomes. For me, everything comes off you becoming more knowledgeable. So for me, it was very easy. If I went to watch a game, a team, how would I beat them? It wasn't me looking to be as a scout. It was me thinking as a manager. And I remember Roberto saying this to me. A manager has to understand the opponent's strengths and weaknesses. So I never saw this as a scouting role. I saw this as something that's making me a brilliant manager, something that's going to really hold me and lay a strong foundation, because the only way I could pick up knowledge was by watching games. The only way. So now I was watching 4, 5, 6 games of a Premier League team, putting a report in, how would I beat them? Then I'd watch the game. Did I get it right? Did I not get it right? As I got older, as I got hopefully better, I could say, well, Roberto did this with that problem. I did that with that problem. Why did he not opt for my way? And I could start working things out. Or why did Roberto deal with this differently? So it really helped me lay what I think is a really solid foundation for my management career. It was never me wanting to be a scout or anything like that. It was me preparing to be a manager. Everything I've ever done in my life has always gone, is this making me a better manager? If the answer is no, I've not done it. So every decision has always gone with, am I becoming a better manager with this step? And with Roberto, the answer was yes. So it was always improving my knowledge and making me a better manager.
Yeah, and what areas of scouting do you think that you excelled in the most, would you say? Was it opposition analysis or was it?
Interesting, because at the time I never used an analysis. It was me going via Sky Sports, recording the games, because we didn't have a Y Scout account at the time, and I would just watch the games and I just put in a report on PowerPoint. And that's how I used to do the reports. And then at Belgium, I remember we worked with an analyst, which made the job so much easier because they could give you information then, and you could really focus on the key things. And every time I've gone into management, I've been very, because of the way I've been wired in a way, that I've always been good on, well, not good, I've always been sort of ready to say, okay, well, we're playing this opponent. What do they do well? Where can we hurt them? And I think because of over maybe a decade now of doing opposition reports, I've got that thing where I'll always focus on that, whether it's trying to nullify them or trying to beat them in their weaknesses. But one thing I think watching this many games has given me is a good foundation of knowledge. Now it can get, like anything, it can get better, but I'm used to watching maybe 4 or 5 games a day. I'm used to watching clips after clips after clips on specific things. I'm used to all of this. So all this has prepared me for management. So anytime I've got a management job, I've always felt ready for it because I can watch a game, dissect it, and then prepare a team. And that was the whole purpose of me doing the scout reports for Wigan, for Everton, to really gain that deep understanding.
Yeah. And obviously, you said that you worked things out on that side of things, on the tactical side. How did you find it was different when you went into a coaching environment of the aspect of man management that came involved with it?
I was very lucky. Roberto was very keen on me to go and do my own thing. So I would do the scout reports for him. I was studying at university, but I was coaching from 17 grassroots football. So even though I never played grassroots, I got my first under 15s, it was at 17. I then became a senior manager and when I was 19. So I was Hesker Bank Reserves, which is an amateur club, and I had the reserves. I was 19 and I was now in a change room with seniors. I was 19 and I was managing players in their 30s, 31st, and I made a lot of mistakes. I then moved to Drolson. I then moved to Nelson. I then moved to Stockport Sports. I used to coach night and day in the evening. Then I used to go and do scout reports and I had uni during the day. That was my life. So I looked at everything now, I look back and I think, yes, I had a brilliant experience with Roberto doing the scout reports, but on the other side of it, I was coaching every single day. Every single day, I was coaching maybe 4 or 5 hours. I was managing. So I had the best of both worlds. I could work at that Premier League level at the time with Wigan and Everton, but I was coaching whether it's non-league, whether it was Sunday league. I was 21, I think I was, managing Sunday league just to gain experience. And that's why I tried to roll it all into one. So when the management job came, the big one, I'd already made my mistakes. I was ready for everything. That's why I always say that every decision was this making me a better manager? And I was obsessed with both coaching, being on the pitch, being in a change. Roberto always was big on that, being in a changing room, being in a changing room, dealing with situation, dealing with boards, always. And he always kept saying to me, go manage, go manage. And I took his advice literally and it was hectic when I look back at it now, but it was worth it. Every bit was worth it.
Yeah, and you obviously started at Wigan and then you went to Everton as well. Was it all voluntary this whole time?
Yeah, completely voluntary. So he didn't really have a choice. I just followed him when he went to Everton. I just carried on I just carried on producing scout reports, and instead of putting Wigan reports, I just put Everton reports. So he didn't really have a choice. But yeah, because at the time it was just about gaining experience, and I never thought about money. I never thought, oh, am I going to get there? It's just about, I'm getting a better manager. It's an investment in myself. It's an investment in my career. And at that time, I was still doing my part-time management. I was still coaching everywhere. So for me, it was crazy hours. Some things never change, but great preparation because if you can do that, then you can do anything.
Yeah, it's a brilliant grounding, and I think I agree with you. I think money doesn't come into it when it's something you absolutely love doing, and it's a career you want to pursue. You know it'll pay dividends eventually. And you had a few first team coaching roles, and then youth team coaching roles as well, and then you got the move up to Fort William for a semi-professional club. How did the move to Fort William come about? Because I remember there was a massive Sky Sports frenzy about it as well.
Was in a meeting and John came in, the chairman, and he asked for somebody and he was just waiting. And I was waiting. I just finished my meeting. I was actually remember I was watching Belgium, Italy back, and I was looking at what I would do differently or the game a little bit. And John's always up for a chat. He was speaking a little bit. So I asked him a few questions about what he was where his club was. And that was it. I introduced myself. And then that was that. He got my number, and then he messaged me saying, you're building a decent CV. Let's have a chat in a couple of weeks." I thought nothing of it, and then he messaged saying, "Let's meet up again." And then by that time, because I'd got a bit of time, then I did a bit of research on the club. I understood what the situation was. I came prepared to meet John properly, and then one thing just clicked, and went to watch a cup game with John, and then we came back and we spoke a little bit more. And he's just a great relationship. I still speak to John to this day. Got a lot of respect for him. And then John said, "Listen, if you want it and you want to come in, it's there for you."
Yeah, and it was, as I say, it was quite a bit of a media frenzy at the time. We had Sky Sports up and everything, and then
But yeah, I remember speaking to my agent, and I was just having a general chit chat, and I was like, just about the the situation at Fort William. I'm looking forward to it. I spoken to Roberto, and I was like, yeah, it all sounds good. Everything's good. And then I remember when it got announced, I was due to speak to Roberto that day, and I just remember my phone just going mad. And I just didn't know what was going on. It just literally throughout that whole day and the next 2 days, my phone did not stop, and it was ridiculous. And yeah, I remember having to remember to put Roberto in the meeting. I was like, I've got got a meeting here, and I had the phone going left, right, and centre. Yeah, I didn't. Nobody sort of from my side expected it to go like that in any way, shape, or form, and it was crazy, but it was good. I think it did great things for the club, and I think the club and the town deserved it.
yeah, and I think with obviously the story of you working under Roberto, the football manager thing, although you kind of want to keep away from that because you're much more than a football manager player, but I think that twinned with you can argue the worst professional or semi-professional football club in the UK at that time. I think the two of them married together, it sort of made sense to be a big media frenzy, if I remember rightly.
Yes, I remember it's just that thing where it makes sense for a lot of the media. Because I did ask a friend of mine in the media, I was like, why is it so busy? I was like, what's going on? And he explained exactly what you said, and it was just the moment, the situation. And yeah, me and John, I remember speaking about this afterwards. So John and we both looked at each other like we didn't expect it to be like this. But credit to him, credit to the club. They were well prepared. I wasn't, but the club and John were really well prepared, and they knew how to handle the situations, and they were very good. So credit to them.
Yeah, and you brought up a few of the players that you knew as well.
Yes, one of the main condition I had with John, the first conversation was I needed to be full time with the club. With all due respect, I'd managed part time, and I was not prepared at that moment in my life to go back to part time football. If the next management job I wanted, what I needed to be full time. John obviously asked then what you're going to do because we didn't have the biggest of budgets. So we then decided that the budget would be there and we would fit players in around that and we would just work full time. That was my only condition that the club became full time. And I got to give so much respect to John here because John didn't know me before, and to trust me with this plan, to trust me and go, you know what, this is what you want, this is your plan. I'm going to back it, and he did. He didn't have to. To be fair, he could have quite easily gone, you know what, this isn't for us. Because this was a manager he didn't know coming in and saying, I want to go full time with this club. And to be fair to John, he backed it. And I got to give him so much respect for that. So, in that way, what we had to do then was bring a whole new squad in. So, me coming in January was followed by me bringing in 16 players. And I think I recruited over maybe 6, 7 weeks, 16 players on a shoestring of a budget. No word of a lie, Ross. It was probably the hardest time I've ever had because I had this wonderful opportunity. I knew I needed 16 players without a budget to go full time. And I remember an agent saying to me, "Are you mad?" When I asked him, he goes, "How are you going to pull this off?" I was like, "Do you have any players or not?" I said, "I don't." I said, "I'm not." I said, "Just get to the point. We haven't got time for this." And honestly, there was a period where my phone would go off maybe at 2, 3 in the morning, and it would be like quiet for 3 hours. At 6 o'clock, it would be pinging again, and it was literally the hardest 7, 8 weeks of my life.
Yeah, and it was this your first time managing a playing budget?
No, so I'd managed previously in the counties in England and a little bit in Wales. I was assistant manager there, so I was used to budgets. I was used to sort of tight budgets as well. But I was probably even at Hesketh Bank, I had to bring a whole squad in. So this was not new to me. I was quite used to having to recruit massively, and I was used to it anyway. And this is why I look at Hesketh Bank. This is why I look at all those other opportunities. I see it prepared me for Fort William because to bring 16 players in, to go full time, to try and save a club, and to do that in 3 or 4 months. was a gigantic task, but I was prepared for it. I like to think.
Yeah, and they obviously went from a Sky Sports frenzy to a BBC frenzy as well because they caught wind of it and decided to make a documentary on it. I think it's still on iPlayer somewhere, but was this it? Was how did you manage that? Because that's obviously quite a difficult thing for your first management role as well.
I'm going to give you a little bit of an inside information here. I've never told anybody, so this is special for you, Ross.
Exclusive.
Exclusive. That's the word I was looking for. I remember John ringing me and he's saying they want to do a documentary. And I was like, I'm not up for it. I said, with all due respect, I said, it's a very tough job. I said, I don't want any extra addition because I've never been one to sort of do extra media stuff. I've always preferred to do what I've got to do and concentrate on the football. Anything that takes me away from the training ground, anything that takes me away from watching games, I'm not happy. It really bugs me. So that's it. And then I sat down with John. I said, is this going to be beneficial for the club? If it is, because as a manager, you always have to put your club first. As a player, when you speak to a player and he's not playing, you say that the team comes first. But as a manager, the club comes first. And John was like, this is going to be good for the club. And I was like, you know what? I've got to be honest. I've got to be true. I'm here for the football club. Let's do it. And again, credit goes to John because he was able to have that foresight. And the people that came in from the BBC were brilliant. Perhaps I can honestly say nothing but great things about them. And it was great for the football club. And it was a great, I'm glad John had that vision because if it was for me, I would have said, no, I just want to concentrate on football and that's done. But John was very clear and he was, spoke again, there was no pressure. John was brilliant. He was like, listen, it's your call, but I think it's good for the club. And I said, listen, if it's best for the club, let's do it. And it was the right decision. So John deserves a lot of credit with that decision.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting for me because obviously I was doing scouting at the time, but it was sort of coming out of COVID time. So I was scouting through watching other teams play. They had Brecon in the league at the time, who were the sort of the main runners. And it's funny because I'd seen sides of the club that I'd never seen. So the documentary was brilliant. I thought it was really, really good. I actually really enjoyed watching it. Obviously, the season didn't turn out the way that you wanted it to turn out. We also had an issue with the pitch as well, which means that the club got relegated. Are you able to allude on your departure about with the club? I know that there was a story went that you were going to scout with Roberto with Belgium. Is that right?
Yeah, so I was under contract with Belgium, but I came to an agreement that allowed me to go to Fort, and that was fine with it. And I said to John that "Look, we'll sit down at the end of the season and we'll take it from there. And I sat down with myself to be fair, and I thought to myself, look, do I want to continue with Fort or do I want to go to a World Cup with Belgium, something that had worked 2, 3 years? And it was a tough decision. I'm not just saying this because I remember thinking, and I remember John telling me just take some time to think. Because I was always upfront with John, and he knew exactly the situation, and he was like, just take some time. He goes, it's been a long season, take some time, and when you're ready, we'll have a chat. And I think that shows you, and the board, Ollie as well, were very good in that moment. I think that shows you a lot about the people, that they were very respectful. They knew it was a big decision. And I think what John knew as well by speaking to me, that it was weighing up on me. I wanted to stay, I wanted to continue the project, but at the same time, I wanted to go to a World Cup and I wanted to give everything. And it was weighing up on me, and John knew that. So John was like, just take some time, go on holiday, do what you got to do, and just make your decision when you want to. And that's it. John did come with a great sort of thing where he would let me go for a couple of weeks for the World Cup, but I just felt that would be a disservice to Fort and a disservice to Belgium. And I thought to myself, I put a lot into Belgium with the Euros. I was there the year before when the Euros was meant to be in for the COVID. I felt that there was a big opportunity to win it. So I decided that, you know what, I was going to go to Belgium. I was going to go and give everything to that. I'm not the type of person that can give like 90% and do both because once I commit, I commit. And John was brilliant. I sat with John. I remember John saying to me, we met in a coffee shop in Preston, and he's like, just take 24 more hours and think about it. And I was like, no, John, this is my decision. And John was brilliant. We spoke, we shook hands, And I thanked him, thanked Woody, thanked Ollie and everybody. And it was a tough decision, very tough decision, because I felt that I wanted to get foot back up. I wanted to build the project out. I felt really settled there, but I decided to go to Belgium.
Yeah, and what is it you're up to now? What is Shadab, the world of Shadab Iftikhar now? What is it you're up to?
So the last 9 months, I joined Pakistan Football Federation, which came out of the blue. I ended up taking the 19s. I got beaten in the final, unfortunately, but we got to the final, and then we continued to set up the structure of Pakistan Youth Football Federation. And then after in March, I left the contract ended, and Jesus Saber from Portugal, Roberto's opposition man, got in touch with me and said, "Would you want to come on board for the Euros, and then we'll take it from there?" I said, "You don't have to ask twice." I said, Roberto called. I said, "Roberto, that's absolutely fine." So yeah, so a great time. So far we've not done too much. We watched a little bit of the March games, and now we're just starting to start to get some work on the Euros. So basically the story of this podcast is wherever Roberto goes, I end up there somehow. So, so I don't think it's his choice, but somehow we always end up there. But no, it's been brilliant. I've also been into Wigan a little bit, to watch training under Sean Maloney. What a top guy, by the way. I've known Sean for a long time. Top guy. I watched a few of the Wigan games as well. It's sometimes like watching Belgium. They're playing great football. So I've been enjoying a bit of time just going to see different things. Yes, it's been really good, really good. I enjoyed love my time in Pakistan. Absolutely brilliant. That was a special time. Loved every minute of it. And now I've gone to Portugal, so hopefully enjoying a European campaign with them.
Yeah, no, that's great. And Shadab, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. I know you're really, really busy, so I do appreciate your time. Will there ever be a move back up to Scotland if the opportunity arises?
Absolutely. I had a lot of respect before that I got there. When I got there, it increased the respect if that's possible. I met some great people, you being one of them. I love my time there. I love the country. My family still misses Scotland. It's honestly, it's been great, and I will hopefully end up back in Scotland to manage.
Yeah, no, as I say, I'll be keeping in touch with you anyway. But it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll maybe see you soon.
Yeah, thank you very much. Take care.